Hello everybody and welcome to today's Polaris MEP webinar. This is the third installment in our 5S Lean and COVID-19 series, and today we are thrilled that we have Chris Sanieri focusing on shine. And this is obviously a topic that is hot on everybody's kind of minds right now with coronavirus, but as we're going to hear from Chris today, it will also yield some terrific benefits far beyond this current situation. But for now, I'm going to mute myself and let Chris take it from here.
Thank you, Erin, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I know that it's beautiful weather this week, so we really appreciate you taking time to be with us as part of our series on 5S. So my name is Chris Sanieri. I'm a project manager here with Polaris MEP. I've been working in manufacturing for a little over 20 years in various operations and quality roles. And as Erin said, I'm here today to talk about the third S, which is shine. So during the first webinar on Monday, Nathan Bonds introduced 5S in general and talked a little bit about sort. And yesterday you heard Ted Kennedy talk about set in order. If you missed any of those and would like to see them, send us an email, or you can keep your eyes on our YouTube page. The recordings will be up fairly shortly. So today we're going to focus on shine and specifically what we mean by that. We'll also talk about not only the traditional benefits of shine, but also how it can help you create a safe environment during COVID-19. Lastly, we'll break down the difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting, as these terms are often used interchangeably. We'll leave some time at the end for any questions you may have by using the chat function that Erin noted earlier. So what are some of the benefits of shine? Well, nobody really likes to talk about cleaning. So before I go into the how, I'd like to get everyone motivated by talking about the why of this practice. So let's talk about morale. How does it feel when you go to start cooking in your kitchen and the stovetop's a mess? It's a reminder of something that you need to do. And while we're at it, why don't we go ahead and start thinking about all of the other things that we need to do that we haven't done yet? So a dirty work area can lead to a subconscious rabbit hole of negative emotions. It helps set the day off on the wrong foot. How many people do you think would like to help you cook in your dirty kitchen? Probably none. So a dirty work area also prevents others from wanting to work there with you as well. How about that pool of cooking oil around the burner on your stovetop? Might that invite a fire? Sometimes a dirty work area directly leads to safety issues by creating an unsafe condition, or indirectly leads to a safety issue by blocking information, such as the readout on a dial. And what about equipment reliability? Well, isn't there that one knob on your stovetop that's harder to turn than the others? When you remove the knob, you find a year's worth of caked up tomato paste. Are you surprised at that? Well, the same happens in an industrial environment. It's just often with different contaminants, such as dust, metal shavings, and oil. So now for the what and the how of shine. Well, this is the third S. So you've already achieved great things through sort and set in order. Cleaning refers to sweeping, mopping, dusting, degreasing, wiping down surfaces, removing dirt, etc. Cleaning is not the job of the janitorial staff. It's everyone's job. When you sort and set in order, chances are that you're going to be moving items that haven't been moved in a while, possibly in a very long time. As such, they're prone to dust, dirt, and other environmental contamination. As each step of the 5S process sets you up for success with the next, shining should not only occur with items, but with surfaces as well. This will set you up to standardize the area, which is the topic of our next webinar, which takes place tomorrow. So now we're going to do a poll. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at this picture and go ahead and open up that chat screen that you used earlier and just kind of tell us what are some of the things that you see in this picture that aren't good. Maybe they're not correct. Maybe they could be improved upon. What are some of the things that you see here that, yeah, we could probably do a better job?
All right, layers of gunk. That's what one person said. I think gunk is a technical term, isn't it, Chris?
That is actually an industry standard term.
Absolutely. Cable cut.
A cable cut, very good.
Lots of crud. A question, does the machine have any oil or does it have enough oil?
That's a great point. Good.
Mm-hmm. A potential safety issue.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Give a couple of more seconds here. These are some great comments.
Leaks.
Leaks, absolutely.
The warning sticker is worn. Ooh, eagle eye on Jordan.
Very nice. All right, so we're seeing a lot of things here. I mean, obviously, when we take a look, it's dirty. Okay, so a lot of these things you folks saw. Some folks said dirty. Gunk was the word that was used. Contamination, it's all over. The warning label, somebody mentioned the warning label, and absolutely, it's peeling off that machine. The cable was cut was another note somebody made. The protective sheath on it is broken, so you have exposed wires. The opening for the wiring to the motor wasn't plugged, so you have the potential for oil to get in there as well. What should the pressure be on that dial? Is that a normal pressure? Does it mean that it's not running because it's all the way down? There's no indication there. And our lubricating oil, is that where it's supposed to be? Again, we're not really sure. So what we're seeing here, unfortunately, are common and preventable equipment problems. For many of us, there's probably at least one spot in our facility somewhere that we could find something kind of similar to this. So we can all relate to it is what I'm trying to say. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So Shine is more than just grabbing a Lysol wipe. You have to clean everything, inside and out. If safety is an issue with this, schedule the time and/or qualified personnel to get it done. So I used to work in a commercial environment, in a food environment, and we had a bus duct, electrical bus duct that ran across the top of the facility. And it was 440 volt three-phase. And even though it was sealed, because there was flour in the air, flour would find its way into there. And where you have standing flour, you can have flour beetles. So it had to be cleaned regularly. So we would bring in outside contractors on a regular basis to go ahead and get in there and clean it properly and safely. So that's what I mean when I say if safety is an issue, go ahead and take a look at how do we achieve that safely and make the plans to do so. You need to verify the good working condition of tools, equipment, and workstation. You want to clean to inspect. You will learn more about the condition of the tool and equipment when it's clean versus when it's caked in dirt. Is a deep cleaning needed? If so, again, make the arrangements to schedule it on a routine basis. Is repair needed? Again, make the necessary arrangements. You have to schedule that repair. You want to identify and investigate sources of contamination within the workplace. This can occur when you audit your facility as part of your sustain plan, which is the topic of our webinar on Friday. Can Shine bring about return on investment in your facility? After all, there's a fair amount of work involved. So one manufacturer reduced downtime on a hydraulic press after a string of failures. As it turned out, what they found was that the sight glass for the oil reading was dirty and the unit was running low on oil. Once the oil level was determined to be the problem, the root cause was found and the issue has gone away. So think about how much equipment costs on a per hour basis in overhead within your facility. And then you'll realize that any efficiencies gained or any downtime that's reduced as a result of your efforts makes the small time investment in cleaning worth it. All right, so to be completely honest, if this was this time last year, we'd probably be wrapping up this webinar very soon. However, with the advent of the COVID-19 situation and the requisite control procedures required for businesses to operate safely and successfully, it's a great time to talk about how to add these practices to your 5S program. So by adding disinfecting and sanitization practices to cleaning routine, we can not only achieve some of the benefits we've already spoken of, but also make the equipment safe and the area safe for our employees, visitors, etc. So if you attended our previous webinar series on Rhode Island manufacturing COVID-19 playbook, you'll remember our chart showing how long the virus lives on surfaces common to manufacturing facilities. And some of you may have seen something like this in a similar format recently. One example that we want to show is the virus can last 5 days on metal surfaces, such as doorknobs and tools. And these are all things that we have in our facilities. So I won't do a poll to find out how many of you use tools in your facility, because everywhere we have them. So your team has to know that SHINE means cleaning and disinfecting everywhere, again and again. So cleaning and disinfecting are not the same thing. And we've discovered through this pandemic that many of us weren't cleaning properly. We've been cleaning mostly for aesthetic purposes and not focusing on controlling the levels of bacteria and viruses that we have. Sanitizing lowers the number of bacteria and viruses on surfaces to levels deemed safe by public health organizations. The sanitizing products work faster and tend to be safer to use than disinfecting products. In a manufacturing environment, this route is often suitable. Disinfecting using prescribed disinfectants is a slower process, but kills infectious fungi, bacteria, and viruses. This may be necessary in certain manufacturing environments such as medical devices, biotech, pharmaceutical, food production, etc. So you see the difference. Cleaning, we're removing dirt, some germs from the surface, but sanitizing and disinfecting, that's where we lower and in some cases eliminate. So based on my experience and what we're hearing from Rhode Island manufacturers, there are 3 basic steps for establishing the new protocols. First, make sure you have what your workers need to comply with expected behaviors. Our playbook that's available on PolarisMEP.org website has guidance on recommended disinfection solutions. If you can't find what you need or in the volume that you need it, please call us at Polaris MEP. Our team has identified a lot of resources, in most cases local, and would love to make connections for you. Second, make it clear to everyone what they're responsible for versus what you as their employer is responsible for. For example, prior to a shift change, the employee working with a piece of shared equipment is the one who should properly disinfect it. We're all in this together. If team members understand why they're doing this and why it's important, to protect each other, to protect their work family, to protect their families at home, and the protocols are clear, they'll follow them. So training is how you can make sure this is all done properly. There are tools that you can use to help keep track of progress along the way. Based on experience, I would recommend creating a master sanitation schedule. Now, many food, biotech, pharmaceutical companies, etc., they use expensive software that'll have a master sanitation schedule in it. It will spit out work orders for each individual piece of equipment. Again, they've spent a lot of money on these. You don't have to spend any money on these, okay? You can open up a Google Sheet for no money and set up something similar to what we have on the screen here as an example. There are plenty of examples that you can get from an online search, or you can create your own, again, in a Google Sheet. The important pieces that you want to capture here are the area being cleaned, the equipment, the type of cleaning, whether it's a disinfection, a sanitizing, or just a regular cleaning, who's responsible for it, and the frequency. And here's a pro tip. If you have whiteboards in your facility, sometimes they're called Gemba boards, in each work area, print and hang this on those boards, or at least somewhere in the work area. And have employees check off each time they go ahead and perform a cleaning or a sanitization on equipment. This is going to serve as a visual reminder to people that cleaning has taken place, that you value their health and safety, and that it's okay to work in that area. So again, just a tip. So now I think we've covered a lot of good material here today. I think it might be a good time, Erin, that we can probably open up the chat feature and field a couple of questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. I have to say I was a little struck by your kitchen analogy, and I'm going to be looking behind dials a little bit more thoroughly when we're over with this. So the first question that has come in is, I understand that for COVID-19, we have to clean every day. But if cleaning is different than shine, how frequently should we be shining?
That's a great question. So when you look at the COVID situation, the recommendation from Rhode Island Department of Health is to clean an area at least once per day, more if it's used more frequently or if it's a higher traffic area. So how do you interpret that? Well, a good practice is to just take stock of the area. How many people work in the area? How large is the area? How open is it? And what type of contaminants are in the area? Is there a lot of oil spray? Is there a lot of metal shavings? Is it prone to dust? Or if it's a food shop, is it prone to flour, etc.? You'll want to come up with a cleaning protocol that allows you to stay in front of how dirty they're getting and how frequently they're becoming dirty. So a good way to do it is to monitor an area over the course of a week and track how often you're cleaning. Start with once a day. And if it's not enough, you can go to twice. If you're more than one shift operation, do it to start per shift, and you hit 3 times a day. But keep an eye on it and make sure you stay in front of it.
Thank you, Chris. So the next question says, what about companies that are bringing employees back on an alternating basis? A lot of folks are doing alternating basis or staggered shifts. What would you recommend for that after each day, shift?
So that's a great question. Same thing, you want to make sure that you're cleaning in the right frequency by establishing some baseline and then monitoring it from there, whether it's effective. But as far as staggering shifts and having different folks in the building at different times who may or may not see each other, that's a great case for hanging that checklist in the area. And then Team A, let's call them, checks off that they sanitized and cleaned on such and such a day and time. And then when Team B comes into work, they can see that, they know when it was done, and they'll know what they have to do next. So great question.
Absolutely. It seems like the communication part of Shine is a big element to this, yes?
Exactly, exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything expensive or large. It can just be a simple spreadsheet.
All right. So here's a question regarding oil. Do you have any data regarding oil and COVID-19 as maybe a COVID transfer agent, this person asks?
Wow, that's a good question, because oil is prevalent in some areas, in some industries. And from everything I've read from Rhode Island Department of Health to CDC, I've not seen anything specific to oil. But what I can tell you is that we have a great relationship with the Rhode Island Department of Health. We actually had them as a guest on one of our webinars. And we can certainly reach out and ask that question. So if you could get in touch with us after this webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with that.
Excellent, excellent. We'll definitely grab that information and share it with everybody, because I think that's an important one. That also has to do, again, with the Shine, that you're considering things inside and out. Is that correct?
If you have work areas that move within different parts of your building or even outside of your building, absolutely. So I'm thinking of a company that has 2 buildings that are separated by an alleyway. And there's some various equipment stored out in the alleyway. It's outside, so you have some outside environmental issues that you have to contend with. You also have walkways in the winter that have to be cleaned up, snow and ice, right? So you do want to take stock of the area outside as well as inside of your building.
So the next question that we have is it helpful to kind of determine maybe a plant-wide decision so that everybody knows what gets cleaned, what gets sanitized, and what gets disinfected?
It is. And in larger companies, and again, companies where sanitation is a must, such as food and biotech, they have teams of people, and that's their job, is to go ahead and go through the plant, put that master sanitation schedule together in a software program. For a small to mid-sized manufacturer, it's a good idea to establish a multidisciplinary team, maybe somebody from production, somebody from quality, et cetera, and take stock of the information in your plant. A good resource is your engineering department. So chances are your maintenance department will have a list of equipment in the facility that you can draw on. And then break up your plant into sections and identify the equipment in those sections. And once you have your baseline, cleaning once a day, you can look at and identify this needs to be done more frequently, this can stay at once a day. You want to put a little bit of elbow work up front in building that spreadsheet, that master sanitation schedule. And then from there, you just have to follow it.
Well, that's an interesting last statement, because the next question I got was, how do you keep everybody motivated to continue to follow the schedule?
So you have to be able to sell everybody and get everybody to agree on the clean work environment is a lot better than the dirty one that we used to work in. What happens often is you go through the sort and set and order stage, and it creates a lot of buzz and people get excited because we get all the old stuff out. And then we go through the cleaning, which requires a lot of work. But if they see the value in it, especially production and maintenance teams who are working around equipment like the picture that we saw earlier, we all know that that exists somewhere or other in our plant. And we all know what we look at when we walk by it. So to have that clean area and the good feeling that comes out from it because your job's a little bit easier, you've got to get people to see the benefits of it. And I think once they see the benefits of it, they're more likely to maintain it. And one other tip, again, if you make it visual, if you have that checklist there where people check off when they've done it, then it becomes the, you don't want to break the streak. So people will kind of feel this subconscious effort to keep it going.
Excellent. 0 days since we last shined, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Excellent. And I would say, kind of from a communication standpoint, that's also someplace I would think where newsletters that go out to your team and reminding them or commending people for doing a great job with this could help keep that morale trending upward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can also do a little bit of a positive, I don't want to call it peer pressure, but if you have different areas of your plant and they're checking off how well they're doing and keeping up with it, then the other areas of the plant might look at it and say, hey, we better not fall behind. And you can celebrate those wins via something like a newsletter or a PowerPoint slideshow that goes in your plant or something like that.
Excellent. The next question is actually a little bit more tactical, which says we're having some difficulties sourcing some of our disinfectant materials. And can you recommend anyone?
So right off the bat, if you take a ride over to polarismep.org, you'll see on the top of our page, download the playbook. There are some sources listed in there. If nothing in there works for you, or if you just want to talk, reach out. There's going to be some contact information on one of the next slides here. And I would be more than happy to work with you because I've already had several conversations with a lot of different companies in the same boat. And just about all the time, we're able to pair them up with somebody. So check out that resource. If it's not working for you, reach out to us personally and we'll get you in touch with somebody.
Excellent. Another bit of a tactical question. You had given a couple of different examples. One was kind of the team cleaning it, and one was when you were at the food production facility that you had brought in outside help. How do you know when you need to bring in outsourced help with Shine versus you can use your team?
So a lot of times it'll come down to a safety issue. If you have electrical panels or something else that might be mandated. For instance, you have to have arc flash training before you're going into a panel, etc. A good resource for that, again, might be your engineering team, and they can identify what they're comfortable with production staff doing, what they would rather have their own staff doing, or what they would rather bring in a third party to do. So your maintenance team is really a great resource there. If you're a small company, you don't have an engineering department, it's really just looking at it and saying, is this safe, yes or no? And if your gut feeling is no, make a phone call and have somebody come in and take a look at it, and they can make recommendations on how to do that.
Excellent advice. Okay, so I think that's it for questions. One question was, do we know if COVID could be seen with a black light?
Wow, that's a great question. I had saw an article a few weeks ago about a company working on a face mask that glows when it comes into contact. But beyond that, I've not read anything else about it. So to my knowledge right now, there's not something that will do that, but there's probably companies out there working on it. So it's something we'll all want to keep our eyes in the news for.
And a very last, again, interesting question. Could there be any way to use kind of digital solutions instead of the cleaning sheets? They said worried about people touching sheets. Is there a way to use a digital solution in place of cleaning sheets and logs?
So there is. A recommendation would be, so I don't think you're going to eliminate touching per se, but a recommendation would be to use a touch screen over a traditional mouse and keyboard. And there's been a little bit of conflicting evidence around this, but with touch screens, it's a flat surface, it's easier to clean. With a keyboard and a mouse, you've got all those nooks and crannies in there, and it's really, really difficult to clean those, at least effectively and without ruining them. So if you have touch screens in your production facility that somebody could walk up to, tap a few times, maybe grab a wipe and wipe it down when they're done, absolutely go ahead and use that.
I did this, I did that. It might also help with, if you have a workforce, I would say, that has a lot of different languages, right? Green means I did it, red means I found something wrong. Colors could help with that visual organization that you had mentioned.
Absolutely, keep it simple. That rule applies here so much so. I've seen master sanitation schedule systems that are just so complicated. And maybe for the industry and the company, they had to be. But for this need, keep it simple, make it easy, visual, and people are more likely to use it.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Chris, for simplifying all of this. Do you have any takeaways that you'd like to leave with everybody today?
Yeah, so on Monday, Nathan talked about how 5S is a journey. The order in which you do these steps, obviously, is very important. So you want to be sure that your whole team is following the practice before you move on to the next step. It's critical not to rush past any of these steps, but especially shine. Because really you're going to do sort, set in order, and shine. And once you're satisfied, that's where you move on to the next step, which again is the topic of our webinar tomorrow, and we'd love to have you, and hopefully you've signed up. So without shine, it's harder to protect your most important assets, which are your workers, from the coronavirus, but also safety issues. So in the long term, without shine, you're not going to get the full return on investment on your efforts. So again, thank everybody for coming today. If there's anything that we can do to help, or if you just like to have an assessment, talk to somebody about where you're at, or if you're just looking for materials, again, disinfectants, PPE, etc., please, contact information on the screen. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call or reach out.